In the early part of the 19th century, the spiritual teacher and leader of the Baha'i faith at the time, Abdul-Baha, said, regard humanity as a single individual and one's own self as a member of that corporeal form, and to know of a certainty that if injury or pain afflicts any member of that body, it must inevitably result in suffering for all of the rest. What this analogy is asking us to consider is that the entire planet as one body, and that if any segment of society, a community, or a nation is oppressed, marginalized, not included, or restricted from access to the resources it needs, eventually that will lead to suffering for the entire body of humanity. Now, I didn't need to watch my father slowly die of cancer for me to fully comprehend the extent of the meaning of this analogy. But as it turns out, that's exactly what happened. I watched week on week how the tumors in his body grew insatiably, single-mindedly focused on their own individual growth, restricting and disrupting the flow of resources to the various organs and elements of his body, only focused on their own individual gain, eventually killing the very thing that they were living off of. I also watched how the chemotherapy that he endured would indiscriminately kill cells in his body. I watched how chemotherapy indiscriminately killed cells in his body and how we justified the use of violence to resolve this internal conflict within his body. This parallel between how society functions and how it considers success and how cancer grows and is treated is becoming a much more obvious parallel to many of us more recently. Reflecting on what we consider as success as a nation or as an individual, from GDP to individual accumulation of wealth, to insatiable consumption of resources and individualism, we realize that these two things are in fact very much interconnected. If we teach our children that success means the accumulation of wealth, that the goal is exceptionalism, that in order for one to win, they have to be number one, and that what we measure our worth by is by achieving the things that only a small minority can ever be able to achieve, then what do we expect to happen when those values are taken to their unmoderated extreme? The irony is that every atom in existence, every organism in this universe is actually showing us the underpinning principle that is required for true success. In the case of my father's body, it wasn't that one organ or element needed to be the savior of the day, or that any one individual aspect of my father's body could save him if it got access to the resources it needed. Nor did success look like using violence against his body to kill the thing that we were fighting against. What success would have looked like was if his body could maintain the equilibrium that it was designed to maintain, for each of the elements and organs and limbs and members to receive the resources they need, for them to each be able to contribute their unique contribution to that entire body and maintain some sense of equilibrium and balance. Your body is doing this for you every single day, without competition, without competitiveness, without a fight for resources, without individualism, without fear of any other element or organ within your body. Within nature, we see the same thing. What we would deem as a successful ecosystem would be an ecosystem that is balanced, harmonious, cohesive, able to share and distribute resources equally and equitably, so that every member of that ecosystem, however big or small, can contribute their unique skills and attributes to that ecosystem. In the case of a family, immediate family or extended family, how we would deem whether that family is functional or dysfunctional would be in their capacity to be able to share resources, support one another, speak with love and compassion even through challenging times, and to identify as a single entity rather than just a bunch of individuals who are somehow related. Eventually, it becomes apparent to us that every living organism or inanimate object in our entire universe is showing us how success can be achieved and what success actually looks like. How we see success in everything in our world is through its collectivism, through its ability to be able to work as a cohesive whole. From the atomic scale to the intergalactic scale, it is the bonds of attraction that hold the molecules of your body together and their ability to exist as a united whole that deem that molecule as a successful molecule or that solar system as a successful solar system. For far too long, as individuals, as tribes, as kingdoms, as nations, we have considered success as an individual initiative, as an individualistic endeavor. And we have thought that the way to achieve success is for me to find some way of advancing myself over the rest around me. From the very beginnings of our political and economic system, we were convinced into thinking that accumulation of wealth and power is how my nation can become successful. It's now time for us to reconsider what success actually looks like. And for us to realize and acknowledge that the fundamental principle that will determine whether or not we can be successful is actually our capacity for unity. Because even though what is deemed as a success for different elements of an ecosystem may differ from one another, what allows them each to achieve their relative degree of success is their ability to function as one singular whole. From the climate crisis and the loss of species to the exacerbated extremes of wealth and poverty, from domestic and family violence to geopolitical conflict, from the mental health crisis to the aged care crisis to the cost of living crisis, collectivism is the solution. There is nothing other than collectivism that will see us through this. No amount of technology, no policy, no amount of wealth, no philanthropy, no leadership or intellect will be able to see us through what we need to go through without this foundational understanding of the principle of unity. If we take an honest look around ourselves as a civilization, on a planetary scale, on a national scale, it's becoming increasingly difficult to say that things are working well. Economically, ecologically, psychologically, geopolitically, things are falling apart. And it's in these moments of crises, of loss, of grief, of bewilderment, that we sometimes get a chance to reassess ourselves and revalue our lives and to reconsider our true purpose, whether it's through profound individual loss or significant collective grief. We as a planet have an opportunity now to reconsider what our values are and to set a whole new range of collective agreements. How we consider the concept of success is connected to how we see our purpose in life. And how we see our purpose in life ultimately drives our journey along. Looking around us with honesty and integrity, it's hard to say that despite the achievements we've achieved as a civilization, that the majority of the body of humanity is doing well, because we're not. What we've deemed as success and what we have achieved for the minority has actually come at significant cost to the majority of humanity and to our planetary home. And it's time for us to reconsider what success actually looks like. The question I'd like to leave with you is, what would a successful society look like if it was built on the foundational and fundamental principle of our inextricable interconnectedness and our undeniable unity? Thank you, friends.